Captain Jake Morrison looked out at the stars through the bridge window of the UES horizon. The ship moved slowly through space, far from Earth and the busy trade routes where the big alien ships traveled. Jake had been flying survey missions like this for 5 years now, and every trip felt the same. Find empty systems, scan some rocks, file a report that nobody would read. The galaxy belonged to 3 powerful species. The Zephyrians had technology that humans could barely understand. Their ships could cross the galaxy in days while human ships took months. The Corvan Empire controlled huge armies and conquered any planet they wanted. The Nixari ran all the trade routes and made the rules about who could buy and sell what. Humans had joined the Galactic Council 200 years ago, but they were still treated like children. Earth got one small voice in a council of hundreds. Human ships could only travel in certain areas. Human colonies were limited to a few dozen worlds close to Earth. The 3 big powers made it clear that humans should be grateful just to be allowed in the club. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Lisa Bennett from her navigation station. She was young, but had good instincts for finding things in space. "There's a ship about 2 light minutes away, but it's not moving." Jake walked over to look at her screen. "Pirates? No, sir. It's huge, way bigger than anything I've seen, and the metal it's made from. My scanner can't identify it." Tony Rodriguez looked up from his engineering station. He was the best ship mechanic Jake had ever worked with. "Want me to run a deep scan?" "Do it," Jake said. "Amy, send a message to any ship in the area. Let them know we found something." Amy Clark nodded and started working at her communications station. She could speak 12 different alien languages, which made her valuable on a ship that might meet anyone out here. The deep scan took an hour. When the results came back, everyone on the bridge went quiet. The ship was over 3 miles long and had been drifting in space for thousands of years. The metal it was made from was stronger than anything in current use. Most interesting of all, it was completely empty of life but still had power. "Sir," Tony said quietly, "this thing is more advanced than a Zephyrian dreadnought. Way more advanced." Jake thought about what to do. Finding old ships was not unusual. Sometimes explorers found wrecks from ancient wars or dead civilizations, but those ships were always broken and empty. This one was intact and still running. "We're going aboard," Jake decided. "Lisa, bring us close." Tony, prepare shuttle. Amy, send a report to Earth Command, but mark it priority classified. The shuttle trip to the ancient ship took 30 minutes. When they got close, they could see that the hull had no weapons, no obvious engines, and no markings they could recognize. There was an airlock that seemed designed for different types of beings. Inside the ship was a maze of corridors and rooms. The air was breathable and lights came on as they walked. Everything was built on a huge scale with ceilings 20 feet high and doors wide enough for large creatures. But there were also smaller spaces that seemed made for beings like humans. "It's like they built this for multiple species," Lisa said as they explored. They found what looked like a control room filled with screens and displays that lit up when they approached. The writing was in symbols none of them recognized, but somehow Amy's translation device could read some of it. "This is impossible," Amy said, staring at her device. "My translator is working, but it says this language is related to everything, like it's the source that other languages came from." The biggest discovery came in what looked like a map room. The walls showed a 3-dimensional display of the galaxy with thousands of small lights scattered across it. Each light marked the location of a ship just like this one. "There are more of them," Jake said. "Hundreds more." Tony found the ship's main computer and managed to access some files. What he found made everyone nervous. The ship's logs told the story of a civilization that had built these vessels as an early warning system. They had detected something coming from outside the galaxy, something they called the Devourers. The logs showed images of planets being stripped bare and entire star systems going dark. "According to this," Tony said, reading the translated text, "these Devourers consumed everything in their path. The civilization that built this ship tried to fight them but lost. These ships were their final attempt to warn others." The last entry in the logs was a countdown. It had been running for over 50,000 years and it showed less than 1 year remaining. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Instead of reporting the ship to the Galactic Council, he sent an encrypted message directly to Admiral Helen Carter at Earth Command. She was one of the few high-ranking officers who understood that humans needed to be ready to protect themselves. The return trip to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Jake's crew studied everything they had copied from the ancient ship. The technology was incredible. The ship used something called quantum tunneling to move faster than light without entering hyperspace. Its shields could stop weapons that would destroy current ships. Its computers processed information in ways that human scientists were just beginning to understand. When they reached Earth, Admiral Carter was waiting for them. She was a tough woman who had spent her career trying to build up human defenses despite opposition from the Galactic Council. She listened to their report in complete silence. "How many people know about this?" she asked when they finished. "Just us and whoever you told," Jake replied. "Good. This stays classified. The Council doesn't need to know what we found. Not yet." Carter stood up and looked out at Earth hanging in space below them. "If these devourers are really coming, the three big powers will look out for themselves first. They've made it clear that smaller species like us are expendable." She turned back to Jake and his crew. "I'm putting you in charge of a new project. Find more of these ships. Learn everything you can from them. And do it quietly." As Jake left the meeting, he knew that humanity was about to change. For 200 years, they had accepted being the weak newcomers in a galaxy run by others. But now they had found tools that could level the playing field. The question was whether they would have enough time to learn how to use them. In the depths of space, far beyond the galaxy's edge, something ancient and hungry had detected the signs of a thriving civilization. The countdown on the derelict ship continued its steady march toward zero, and soon the galaxy would learn why no species had ever forgotten the day humans rose to meet the darkness. 3 months after finding the ancient ship, humanity was racing against time. Hidden research facilities on Mars, Europa, and a dozen asteroid bases worked around the clock to understand the alien technology. Dr. Marcus Webb led the main research team from a secret laboratory built inside an old mining station. Webb was not the kind of scientist who enjoyed fame or attention. He preferred solving puzzles to giving speeches. But the technology they were studying was like nothing he had ever seen. The alien computers used quantum processing that could solve problems in seconds that would take human computers years to complete. The breakthrough came yesterday. Webb told Admiral Carter during their weekly secure communication. "Elena Foster figured out how their power systems work. We can build them, but we need materials that don't exist naturally." Elena Foster was a young physicist who had been working 18-hour days since the project started. She had discovered that the alien ships used controlled quantum reactions that produced massive amounts of energy from very small amounts of matter. The technology was clean, efficient, and powerful enough to run a city. "What kind of materials?" Carter asked. "We have to make them," Webb replied. "The good news is that Ryan Murphy thinks he knows how." The aliens left detailed instructions for manufacturing equipment. Ryan Murphy was a materials engineer who specialized in creating new types of metal and ceramic compounds. He had been studying the hull material from the ancient ship and believed he could reproduce it using specially designed factories. While the scientists worked on Earth, Captain Morrison continued his exploration missions. His crew had found 17 more ancient ships scattered across the outer edges of known space. Each ship contained the same technology and the same warning about the approaching devourers. Lisa Bennett had become an expert at reading the alien star maps. She could navigate to the hidden ships faster than any other human pilot. Her work allowed Morrison's team to find and study each derelict before other species might stumble across them. "The pattern is clear," she reported during one of their regular briefings. "These ships were placed to create an early warning network around the entire galaxy. Whoever built them was very thorough. Tony Rodriguez had the dangerous job of boarding each ship and copying its computer files. The alien technology was stable, but 50,000 years in space had caused some systems to become unpredictable. He had been shocked twice and nearly trapped when one airlock malfunctioned. "The good news is that each ship has different information," he told Morrison. "We're getting a complete picture of their technology and what they knew about the devourers." Amy Clark spent her time trying to translate the alien languages and understand their culture. The more she learned, the more worried she became. "They were peaceful," she said, "advanced, intelligent, and dedicated to helping other species. But when the devourers came, none of that mattered. They were wiped out in less than 50 years. The first sign that the ancient warning was accurate came from the edge of Corvin space, a star system called Drakmor, home to 6 planets and 3 billion Corvin citizens, suddenly stopped all communication. The Corvin Empire sent a battle fleet to investigate. What they found was nothing. No planets, no debris, No trace that anything had ever existed in that system except the star itself. The only evidence of what had happened was a massive energy signature that their sensors could not identify. The Corvin fleet commander, a veteran warrior named General Thuck, sent emergency reports to his government. His ships detected unknown vessels moving away from the empty system at impossible speeds. When he tried to follow them, the alien ships disappeared into what looked like holes in space itself. The news spread quickly through the galaxy. The Galactic Council called an emergency session to discuss the situation. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to debate what the disappearance of Drakmor might mean. Ambassador Patricia Hill represented humanity at the council meeting. She was a skilled diplomat who had spent years trying to gain more respect for human interests. But as she listened to the debate, she realized that the major powers were more interested in protecting themselves than working together. The Zephyrian representative, a tall being with silver skin and large eyes, spoke first. This incident occurred in Corvin space. It is their responsibility to investigate and respond. The Corvin delegate, a massive creature covered in thick scales, disagreed. Our preliminary reports suggest this threat may affect the entire galaxy. All species should contribute resources to address it. The Nexari representative, a graceful being with multiple arms and a smooth voice, had a different opinion. Trade routes must be protected first. We should establish safe corridors for essential commerce. Hill watched as the three major powers argued about who should take responsibility and who should pay for any response. The smaller species in the council were ignored completely. It became clear that if this new threat was real, humanity would not be able to count on help from the galactic community. She sent an encrypted message to Earth. Council unable to reach agreement. Major powers prioritizing self-interest. Recommend independent preparation. Admiral Carter received Hill's message while reviewing the latest research reports from Dr. Webb's team. The scientists had made remarkable progress. They could now manufacture the alien materials and had built prototype quantum drives for 3 test ships. How long before we have working weapons? Carter asked during an emergency meeting with her senior staff. General Sam Collins, Earth's military coordinator, checked his files. Webb's team says 6 months for small-scale production, 18 months for full manufacturing capability. We might not have 18 months, Carter replied. She showed them the intelligence reports from the Corvin investigation. If this threat is moving as fast as the ancient records suggest, we need to be ready much sooner. The decision was made to accelerate the program. Construction began immediately on a new class of human warship using the alien technology. The first ship, designated UES Defiance, would be humanity's test of whether they could build weapons capable of fighting an unknown enemy. Meanwhile, more star systems began to disappear. The Corvin Empire lost 2 more colonies in the same week. Zephyrian scout ships detected massive energy signatures moving through their outer territories. The Nexari found entire trade stations empty, with no sign of what had happened to the beings who worked there. The galaxy was starting to panic, but the major powers continued to argue about responsibility and resources. Each species began pulling back their fleets to protect their most important systems. Captain Morrison received new orders from Admiral Carter. Instead of just finding ancient ships, his mission was now to locate suitable locations for hidden shipyards where humanity could build their new fleet without being detected by other species. Find us places where we can work without being seen, Carter told him. Deep asteroid fields, gas giant atmospheres, anywhere we can build ships without the Council knowing about it. Morrison's crew understood the importance of their new mission. Humanity was about to begin a massive military buildup using technology that no other species possessed. If they were discovered too early, the major powers might try to stop them or demand access to the alien technology. As Jake looked out at the stars during their next mission, he wondered if humanity was making the right choice. For 2 centuries, humans had tried to fit into galactic society and follow the rules set by more powerful species. Now they were preparing to break those rules and bet everything on technology they barely understood. But with each report of another missing star system, it became clear that the old rules would not save anyone. The galaxy was about to face something that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than any current species. If humanity wanted to survive, they would have to be ready to fight alone. The attacks were getting closer to human space. In the 6 months since Drakmor disappeared, 12 more star systems had vanished without a trace. The Corvan Empire had lost a quarter of their territory. Zephyrian fleets were retreating behind massive defensive lines. The Nexari had abandoned their outer trade stations and were protecting only their core worlds. Hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, humanity's secret shipyard had been working non-stop. Admiral Ben Parker supervised the construction of humanity's first quantum drive dreadnought, the UES Defiance. The ship was 3 times larger than anything humans had built before, with weapons and shields, based on the ancient alien technology. "Noldir, systems check complete," reported Chief Engineer Kelly Davis. She had been promoted to captain and would command the new destroyer UES Vanguard. "All quantum drives are operating within normal parameters." The human fleet was small compared to the armadas of the major powers, but every ship incorporated technology that made them faster and more powerful than anything currently flying. The quantum drives allowed near instantaneous travel across vast distances. The energy shields could absorb damage that would destroy conventional warships. The plasma cannons fired concentrated energy beams that could cut through the heaviest armor. Dr. Webb's research team had also developed something the aliens called quantum torpedoes. These weapons created small tears in space-time that caused massive explosions when they hit their targets. Early testing had shown that a single torpedo could destroy a ship the size of a Corvan battlecruiser. The question is whether any of this will work against the Devourers. Webb told Admiral Carter during their final briefing before deployment. "We know the technology worked against conventional weapons, but we don't know what we're really facing." The answer came sooner than anyone expected. A distress signal reached Earth from New Haven, a human colony world with 2 million settlers. The signal was brief and panicked. "Unknown ships approaching. They're huge. We need immediate assistance." Then the signal stopped. Admiral Carter faced the most important decision in human history. New Haven was 3 days away using conventional drives. The major powers had made it clear they would not risk their fleets to save human colonies. Earth's defense fleet was strong enough to protect the home system, but probably not strong enough to fight the Devourers and win. "We go," Carter decided. "If we're going to fight them eventually, we might as well fight them now and learn what they can do." Captain Morrison, now commanding the upgraded UES Horizon, led the human fleet toward New Haven. His ship had been completely rebuilt using the alien technology. Lisa Bennett navigated using quantum scanners that could detect ships across entire star systems. Tony Rodriguez monitored the new weapon systems. Amy Clark prepared to record everything for analysis. When they arrived at New Haven, they found a battle in progress. Massive biomechanical ships, each one the size of a small moon, were surrounding the planet. The colony's defense platforms were firing everything they had, but their weapons were having no effect on the alien vessels. The Devourer ships looked like they had been grown rather than built. Their hulls were covered in what looked like organic armor that pulsed with internal light. Strange appendages extended from their sides, releasing swarms of smaller craft that moved like insects. "Analysis complete," Tony reported. "Those ships are partially biological. The small craft appear to be some kind of harvesting units. They're stripping the atmosphere and surface materials from the planet." Morrison watched in horror as the beautiful blue world of New Haven slowly turned brown and gray. The Devourers were not just conquering the planet. They were consuming it completely. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison. We are engaging the enemy. Show them what human ships can do." The UES Horizon accelerated to attack speed, its quantum drive allowing maneuvers that defied physics as most species understood it. The other human ships followed, moving in perfect formation despite their incredible velocity. The first shots from human plasma cannons struck the lead Devourer ship with devastating effect. Huge sections of the biomechanical hull were vaporized instantly. The alien vessel, which had been moving steadily toward the planet, shuddered and began to turn toward the attacking fleet. "Direct hit on Target 1, Lisa reported. Significant damage to their forward sections, but the victory was short-lived. The damaged areas on the Devourer ship began to regenerate, growing new hull material to replace what had been destroyed. Within minutes it was fully repaired and moving again. "They healed themselves," Morrison said grimly. "We need bigger weapons." Captain Davis and the UES Vanguard moved closer to launch quantum torpedoes. The advanced weapons traveled faster than light and struck their targets before the Devourers could react. The explosions were spectacular. creating tears in space that consumed entire sections of the alien ships. This time, the damage was permanent. The biomechanical vessels could not repair the quantum damage. One of the huge ships began to drift, its organic lights flickering and dying. The battle turned into a running fight as more Devourer ships arrived from deep space. The human fleet used their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the aliens' massive weapons while striking at vulnerable points with precision. Attacks. Amy Clark broadcast the battle on all galactic frequencies. Every species in the galaxy could watch as human ships fought the enemy that had destroyed so many worlds. "This is the human defense fleet," she transmitted. "We are engaging the hostile force that destroyed Drakmor and other systems. Any species willing to join the fight is welcome." The response was immediate but disappointing. Most species were too afraid to risk their fleets. A few offered moral support or promised to send supplies, but no ships came to help. The Zephyrians sent a message expressing concern for human casualties. The Corvan Empire offered to provide safe harbor for human refugees. The Nexari suggested that humanity should consider strategic withdrawal to preserve their remaining forces. Admiral Parker, commanding the UES Defiance, had heard enough diplomatic nonsense. "Message to all galactic governments," he broadcast. "Humanity did not ask for your permission to defend our worlds. We did not ask for your approval to fight this enemy, and we will not ask for your forgiveness when we succeed where you have failed." The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, the Devourer fleet was retreating into deep space, leaving behind the wreckage of 3 massive bioships. New Haven was saved, though the planet would need years to recover from the atmospheric damage. More importantly, the galaxy had seen something unprecedented. A young species had faced the terror that had driven the major powers into hiding, and had won. The recordings of the battle spread quickly through every communication network. On thousands of worlds, beings watched human ships, moving with impossible grace and firing weapons that cut through Devourer hulls like swords through paper. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon and looked at the tactical display showing the retreating enemy ships. They had won this battle, but he knew it was just the beginning. "Amy, send a message to Earth Command," he ordered. "Tell Admiral Carter that the enemy can be defeated, but they'll be back with more ships. Also tell her that we're not hiding anymore." Amy nodded and began composing the message. She included a personal note. "The galaxy has seen what humans can do when we stop asking for permission." On Earth, Admiral Carter received the battle reports with mixed feelings. Humanity had revealed their technological advantages much sooner than planned. Every major power would now be demanding answers about human capabilities. But as she watched the recordings of human ships saving New Haven while the rest of the galaxy stood aside, she realized that secrecy was no longer necessary. The time for hiding was over. The galaxy would have to accept that humanity was no longer the weak species that begged for scraps from the table of greater powers. They had risen to face a threat that terrified civilizations far older and supposedly wiser than themselves. And this was only the beginning. The victory at New Haven changed everything. Within a week of the battle, ships began arriving at Earth from across the galaxy. Not the massive fleets of the major powers, but smaller vessels carrying representatives from dozens of species that had been abandoned by their supposed protectors. The first to arrive were the Altarians, a proud warrior culture whose homeworld had been consumed by the Devourers 2 months earlier. Their remaining fleet consisted of 20 ships carrying the survivors of their civilization. Their leader, War Commander Kale, requested permission to speak with Admiral Carter directly. "We have watched the recordings of your battle," Kale told Carter in the meeting room aboard the orbital station above Earth. He was a tall, muscular being with bronze skin and fierce eyes. "Your species fights with honor and skill. The Altarians offer our service to humanity in this war." Carter was surprised by the directness of the offer. "We appreciate your support, but we're not looking to rule other species." "You misunderstand," Kale replied. "We do not offer to serve under you. We offer to serve with you. Our people have always believed that warriors should stand together against darkness." More species followed. The Meridians, a peaceful agricultural people, offered to provide food and medical supplies for the war effort. The Crystalline Collective, master engineers who lived in artificial habitats, volunteered to help build new ships and weapons. The Wanderer fleets, nomads who traveled between stars in massive city ships, shared intelligence about devourer movements across the galaxy. General Sam Collins found himself coordinating with alien military officers for the first time in his career. The challenge was not just language barriers, but completely different approaches to warfare. The Altarians want to charge straight at the enemy, he explained to Carter during their daily briefing. The Meridians think we should focus on protecting civilian populations. The Crystallines want to build bigger weapons. Everyone has different ideas about how to fight this war. Lieutenant Commander Nancy Wright had been assigned to work out the practical details of integrated crews. She discovered that different species had very different ideas about everything from sleeping schedules to food requirements. The good news is that everyone can breathe the same air, she reported. The bad news is that Altarian honor codes forbid retreating under any circumstances, while Meridian ethics require avoiding unnecessary casualties. Major Chris Thompson led the 1st Joint Human-Alien Special Operations Unit. His team included Altarian warriors, crystalline engineers, and Meridian medics. Their mission was to infiltrate devourer-occupied systems and gather intelligence about enemy capabilities. It's working better than expected, Thompson told Collins after their first successful mission. Different species bring different skills. The Altarians are fearless fighters. The Crystallines can hack any technology. The Meridians keep everyone alive. While the military cooperation was developing, the political situation was becoming more complex. The old Galactic Council had effectively stopped functioning. The Zephyrians, Corvins, and Nexari were too busy protecting their core territories to participate in galactic governance. Ambassador Hill found herself in an unexpected position. Smaller species were coming to humanity for leadership instead of the traditional powers. A new alliance was forming around Earth, and other species wanted humans to take charge. They're calling it the Free Species Alliance, Hill reported to Carter. 47 different species have formally requested to join. They want you to be the supreme commander. Carter was uncomfortable with the idea of commanding alien forces, but she understood the necessity. The major powers had abandoned their responsibilities, and someone needed to coordinate the defense of the galaxy. I'll do it, she decided, but we established clear principles from the beginning. This alliance is based on voluntary cooperation, not human dominance. Every species keeps their independence and their right to leave if they choose. Dr. Webb's research had expanded to include scientists from many different species. The combination of human innovation, crystalline engineering knowledge, and Altarian metallurgy was producing new breakthroughs almost daily. We've made a major discovery, Webb told Carter during their weekly meeting. His team now included Elena Foster, Ryan Murphy, and dozens of alien scientists. The ancient civilization left more than just ships and weapons. They left a map to the Devourer staging ground. The staging ground was located in the void between galaxies, a massive artificial construct where the Devourers had been building their forces for millions of years. According to the ancient records, it was the size of a small solar system and contained billions of bioships. The records suggest that the Devourers have been doing this for a very long time, Elena explained. They consume entire galaxies and then move on to the next one. Our galaxy is just their latest target. Captain Davis and the UES Vanguard had been leading reconnaissance missions to gather more information about enemy capabilities. What she found was disturbing. The Devourers were not just randomly attacking systems. They were following a specific pattern. They're hurting us, she reported during a secure communication to Earth. Every attack pushes surviving populations toward the galactic core. They're concentrating all the food sources in one area before the final harvest. Morrison's upgraded Horizon was conducting deep space patrols along the Alliance's outer boundaries. His crew had been monitoring Devourer communications and making a disturbing discovery. They're learning, Amy Clark reported. Each attack is more sophisticated than the last. They study our tactics and adapt their responses. The major powers were still hiding behind their defensive lines, but cracks were beginning to show. Corvin military officers were quietly approaching Alliance representatives about possible cooperation. Some Zephyrian scientists were sharing research data. Even a few Nexari trade guilds were secretly supplying the Alliance with materials. But the formal governments of all three powers maintained their isolationist positions. They seemed to believe that if they stayed quiet and well defended, the Devourers would eventually go away. The Alliance faced a critical decision when long-range scouts detected a massive Devourer fleet approaching the densely populated Meridian system. Over 50 billion peaceful beings lived in that system. and they had no military forces capable of defending themselves. "We can't save everyone," General Collins pointed out during the emergency strategy meeting. "If we commit our entire fleet to defending Meridian space, we leave Earth and our other allies unprotected. If we don't try to save them, what does that make us?" Carter replied, "The major powers abandoned their responsibilities. We can't do the same." The Alliance fleet departed for Meridian space knowing they were badly outnumbered. Intelligence reports suggested the Devourer force included over 100 bioships, supported by thousands of smaller vessels. But Captain Morrison had an idea. The ancient records contained detailed information about Devourer technology and tactics. More importantly, they contained the locations of other ancient weapons that had never been used. "There's a defense platform in the Meridian system," he told Carter. "It's been inactive for 50,000 years, but the aliens built it specifically to fight the Devourers." The platform was hidden inside what appeared to be a dead moon. When Alliance engineers, led by Tony Rodriguez and a team of crystalline specialists, managed to reactivate it, they discovered weapons more powerful than anything on their ships. The battle for Meridian system became the largest space combat in galactic history. Alliance ships fought alongside ancient automated defenses against a Devourer force that had expected easy conquest. Dr. Sophie Lee, a linguist who had joined Morrison's crew, made a breakthrough during the battle that changed everything. She managed to translate more of the ancient records and discovered something that no one had expected. "The Devourers aren't evil," she announced over the communication channel as the battle raged around them. "They're refugees, the last survivors of a galaxy they already consumed, driven mad by millions of years of isolation and hunger." Paul Anderson, a xenobiologist studying Devourer technology, confirmed Lee's discovery. "Their bioships are not just weapons. They're arcs. They're carrying the genetic information of every species they've ever consumed." The revelation changed the nature of the conflict. The Devourers were not conquerors seeking to destroy other civilizations for pleasure. They were the remnants of countless dead species, trapped in a cycle of consumption because they had forgotten how to live any other way. As the Alliance fleet fought to save Meridian system, Captain Morrison realized that winning this war might require more than just superior weapons. It might require showing the Devourers that there was an alternative to eternal hunger. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since the crisis began, there was hope for a solution that did not involve the complete destruction of either side. The final battle began at the edge of the galaxy, where space faded into the dark void between stars. Admiral Carter commanded the largest fleet in galactic history from the bridge of the massive dreadnought UES Sovereign. Over 3,000 ships from 90 different species had joined the Free Species Alliance for this desperate mission. The Devourer staging ground was even more terrifying than the ancient records had suggested. It stretched across millions of miles of space, a biomechanical construct that pulsed with organic light. Billions of Devourer ships moved around it like insects around a hive, and massive tentacle-like structures reached out into the darkness to harvest energy from distant stars. "Scanning complete," reported Lisa Bennett from her position aboard Morrison's flagship, the heavily modified UES Horizon. "The staging ground contains more enemy ships than our entire Alliance fleet. Conservative estimate is 15-1 odds against us." The plan was desperate but necessary. While the main Alliance fleet engaged the Devourer defense forces, smaller strike teams would penetrate the staging ground's core and attempt to communicate with the Devourer hive mind. Dr. Sophie Lee and her translation team had worked for months to prepare a message that might reach whatever remained of the original species trapped within the collective. Captain Morrison led the primary strike team, accompanied by xenobiologist Paul Anderson and a mixed crew of humans and aliens. Their modified ship could penetrate Devourer bioarmor, using weapons based on the ancient technology, but they would only have minutes inside the staging ground before being overwhelmed. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter." The Supreme Commander's voice reached every vessel in the Alliance fleet. "Today we fight not just for our own survival, but for the future of every species in the galaxy. Remember that courage is not the absence of fear, but action in spite of fear." The battle began with a coordinated assault on the staging ground's outer defenses. Captain Davis and the UES Vanguard led the fast attack ships in hit-and-run strikes against Devourer patrol fleets. The Altarian warriors, led by War Commander Kale, charged directly into the heaviest fighting with their battle cry echoing across communication channels. The Crystalline Collective had built massive siege weapons that could punch holes in the staging ground's bioarmor, while Meridian medical ships stayed back to treat casualties from all species. The Wanderer fleets used their knowledge of deep space navigation to guide Alliance ships through the complex gravitational fields around the construct, but the Devourers fought back with terrifying intensity. Their bioships could repair damage almost instantly, and they seemed to have an endless supply of reinforcements. For every enemy vessel destroyed, 2 more emerged from the staging ground's depths. "We're taking heavy casualties," General Collins reported from his command ship. "The Zephyrian defensive line has collapsed. Corvin battle groups are requesting immediate support." In a surprising turn of events, ships from the 3 major powers had finally joined the battle, faced with the certainty that the Devourers would eventually reach their core worlds. The Zephyrians, Corvins, and Nexari had abandoned their isolationist policies and committed their fleets to the Alliance cause. But even with their help, the Alliance was outnumbered and outgunned. The only hope was Morrison's mission to reach the core of the staging ground and somehow communicate with the Devourer Collective. Morrison's strike team fought their way through layers of biomechanical defenses, using quantum torpedoes to blast corridors through the living walls of the construct. Inside, they found something that defied imagination. Vast chambers containing the preserved genetic material of thousands of extinct species. "It's a museum," Paul Anderson said in amazement as they moved through halls lined with biostorage units. "They've saved the DNA of every species they've consumed. Every culture, every civilization, every form of life." Dr. Lee was working frantically to establish communication with the Devourer hive mind. Her translation equipment was picking up massive amounts of data, flowing through the construct's organic neural networks. Most of it was incomprehensible, but gradually she began to identify patterns. "I'm getting something," she announced. "It's not language as we understand it, but there's definitely intelligence trying to communicate." The breakthrough came when Lee realized that the Devourers were not one species, but the merged consciousness of millions of extinct civilizations. Each consumed galaxy had added its knowledge and awareness to the collective, creating a being of incredible intelligence but also infinite sadness. "They remember everything," Lee said with tears in her eyes. "Every world they destroyed, every species they consumed. They know what they've become, but they can't stop. They're trapped in a cycle they created millions of years ago." Morrison made the decision that would change galactic history. Instead of trying to destroy the hive mind, he opened a direct communication channel and spoke to it as one being to another. "We know what you are," he said simply. "We know what you've lost and what you're trying to preserve. But there's another way." The response was overwhelming. The collective consciousness reached out to Morrison's mind, sharing the memory of their original galaxy before it was consumed, the desperate attempt to preserve life by becoming nomadic consumers, and the growing horror as they realized they had become the very thing they had tried to escape. Paul Anderson added his voice to the communication. "You don't have to consume entire civilizations to preserve them. We can teach you how to coexist, how to share knowledge without destroying the sources." The battle outside continued to rage, but something was changing in the staging ground. The bioships began to slow their attacks. Some stopped fighting entirely and began broadcasting signals that Dr. Lee's equipment could translate. "They're asking questions," she reported. "They want to know if we really mean it. They want to know if there's truly an alternative to endless consumption." Morrison looked around at his diverse crew. Humans, Altarians, Crystallines, Meridians, and others working together despite their differences. "Show them the Alliance," he told Lee. "Show them how different species can cooperate without destroying each other." The demonstration was more powerful than any words. The Devourer Collective saw through the Alliance communication networks how 90 different species had come together to face a common threat. They saw humans sharing technology freely, Altarians fighting alongside former enemies, Crystallines teaching their engineering secrets to anyone who wanted to learn. Most importantly, they saw that cooperation was possible without consumption. Species could share knowledge, resources, and culture while maintaining their individual identities. The transformation began slowly. Individual Devourer ships started approaching Alliance vessels with peaceful intentions instead of aggressive ones. biomechanical repair units that had been designed to maintain the staging. Ground began helping to fix damaged Alliance ships. Admiral Carter watched from the bridge of the Sovereign as the largest space battle in galactic history gradually turned into the largest peace negotiation. All Alliance ships cease offensive operations but maintain defensive positions. We may be witnessing something unprecedented. The negotiations took 3 days. Dr. Lee worked with communication specialists from dozens of species to establish translation protocols that could handle the complex thought patterns of the Devourer Collective. Paul Anderson led scientific teams in studying ways to separate the merged consciousness into individual species memories. But the most important breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Tony Rodriguez, the engineer who had been studying Devourer technology since the first ancient ship was discovered, realized that the biomechanical constructs could be reprogrammed. We can turn their consumption technology into creation technology, he explained to Admiral Carter. Instead of stripping planets bare, they could help terraform new worlds. Instead of consuming species, they could help preserve endangered ones. The final agreement created something that no one had imagined possible. The Devourer Collective would join the Free Species Alliance, contributing their vast knowledge and powerful technology to peaceful purposes. In exchange, the Alliance would help them establish new colonies where the preserved species could be revived and given new chances at life. The staging ground was converted into a massive research and terraforming facility. The bioships that had once spread terror across the galaxy became tools for creating new worlds and restoring damaged ecosystems. The old Galactic Council was permanently disbanded. In its place, the Free Species Alliance established a new form of galactic government based on voluntary cooperation rather than domination by powerful species. Every member species, regardless of size or technological level, had an equal voice in decisions. Admiral Carter became the first elected leader of the new galactic government, but she established term limits and democratic processes to ensure that no single species or individual could accumulate too much power. Captain Morrison returned to exploration duties, but now he was mapping new worlds that could be terraformed rather than searching for threats. His crew had become legendary throughout the galaxy as the beings who had first made contact with the Devourer Collective. The transformation was not immediate or without challenges. Some